live from the Cherry Farm in Parkin, Arkansas. We're going to be with you 3 to 5 p.m. Central, 4 to 6 p.m. in the Eastern time zone, and be joined by Jimmy Hodge, national college football contributor up in Chicago. Jake Crane will be on with us in the 4 to 5 hour, host of the J-Boy podcast. And at 3:30, we're going to have Gordon Ford calling in, talking Ole Miss football, Ole Miss basketball, and SEC and college basketball as well. A lot to talk about, Jimmy. Of course, tomorrow night we got the national championship game, Alabama and Ohio State. Will Jalen Waddle play tomorrow night? Nobody knows. Do they need him? You could always use a player of his abilities, but we will not know until tomorrow night when we watch out there. I know Rodney Orr of Tider Insider was on with us on the show this past Friday, and what he was late being on, what he was trying to do was find out if Jalen Waddle was going to be playing Monday night. I'll tell you what, it says a lot about his character that he is trying to work his ass off to get ready to play in a game that, look, he could get hurt again. I guess he's thinking about his team. I know that's a novel concept in this year of people opting out, basically quitting for the most part. You don't just pick and choose when you want to show up and fight in life. And Jalen Waddle would be a dream teammate to have. We'll be with you again 3 to 5 p.m. Central, 4 to 6 p.m. east of the Chattahoochee, east of the Caney Fork, east of the St. Johns River down in Palatka, Florida. And Jimmy, great show yesterday, man. You, Jake Crane, Gordon Ford, Mitch Davis. We had Chris Doring on from the SEC Network, one of Mr. Two-Bit's favorite players in Florida football history. Really knowledgeable, class act, another great representative of the Gator Nation. Hey, college football, greatest game there is in the world. It's not about the name on the back of the jersey. It's about the brand, what's on the side of that helmet. You put your team first. And the transfer portal and all the guys having a free waiver to go wherever they want this year, that's going to come and go. What matters is to the fans is the players that stick it out and want to fight. Hey, Jimmy Hodge, come on in here right now with us. Again, I'm over here in the park in Arkansas, in the Cherry Farm, looking out at Crowley's Ridge. Snow geese, again, taking over the world. It's just unbelievable. But let's talk some college football. Jimmy, you fired up about tomorrow night? I mean, I know it's the last college game of the year, but for what we've done and as far as we've come this year, I'm mighty proud of the college football coaches, players, everybody involved. How about you?
The SEC and the AMC really led the charge here to try to not only play, but try to play a full schedule if possible. And then as time went along, they made adjustments. The ACC decided to play 10 conference games and open the door to play an 11th against an opponent that would be in state, and then, made an adjustment there when a couple of those in-state rivalries weren't able to be scheduled. So, they especially did a great job. I think the real turning point, though, was when the Big 12 became the third of the 5 power conferences to make the decision to go ahead with playing in the fall. And then, they let the Big 10 and the Pac-12 defend for themselves. And, they decided not to play this fall. And then I'm sure after a lot of pressure from different entities and realizing, just to be truthful about it, that I don't think they could bear having a national championship being decided among probably 2 Southern conferences and not being part of it. I think that.
Hey, Jimmy, let me ask you something. Could you turn up your volume up to about 90% and take it off speaker? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Well, I'm not on speaker.
Oh, okay.
But let me see if I can move it up a little bit. Okay. So, it's just a really interesting ride It's a season that we'll never duplicate. We'll never have just an all-conference only schedule again, and the SEC 10 conference games plus the championship game. It really showed a lot of mettle to to get through that, and a tremendous accomplishment by Alabama going 10-0 in an SEC only schedule, plus winning a very hard-fought SEC championship game, and winning semifinal, and then getting within one game of winning the 18th national championship.
Jimmy, when you look around at this matchup, college football tomorrow night, Ohio State and Alabama, and of course Clemson and Notre Dame are the other two teams in the playoffs. They both lost by pretty large margins, but Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama are in the playoffs, and especially Clemson and Alabama. They played for the national championship 5 or 6 times in the 7 years of the college football playoff. It's no real surprise. In the year of the virus, we've had a lot of things happen. We had no spring practice to speak of. Players gone from March 10th, most of them until about June 8th. But they pulled it off. But again, Alabama, this offense for Alabama looks like the best I've ever seen. Steve Sarkisian, offensive coordinator, now the new head football coach at Texas. Jalen Waddle may not play tomorrow. He might. We don't know. But DeVonta Smith wins the Heisman. What, he come to Alabama, weighed 145 pounds, and now he's the best player in college football, him or Jalen Waddle? Does Alabama have to have Jalen Waddle to beat Ohio State? I don't think so.
No. I mean, they've demonstrated that. In fact, there really hadn't been much of a mention of Waddle because it was just assumed by so many people that it was going to be an injury that the time cycle would be such that he didn't fit into their plans of being able to be available for a playoff run, and he still may not, but it was kind of known by insiders that his rehab process is going very well. Saban had mentioned that he had taken his cast off, I think, the day before the LSU game, and the normal
It's all the way.
Recovery period after taking the cast off is 4 weeks, and he actually up, I think, to the 7 or 8 week mark right now. So again, it wasn't a surprise that the doctors had cleared him, but again, I think Saban wants to wait to see how he looks to warm up, and if he's cleared and the individual player wants to play. I mean, there's no reason that he shouldn't be able to go out there. I mean, you can get hurt at this level or any level of football at any time. So there's no guarantee anyway. But I think everybody's going to be fine with whatever the decision is. But certainly Bama would love to have him, especially if he's at 100%, and he can play at full strength.
Okay. Hey, Jimmy, let's do this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back. Sidelines will be with you till 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. on the East Coast. And I want you to continue making those are some great points that I hear you saying. And the bottom line is nobody knows for certain, but I will tell you, I would love to have a teammate like Jalen Waddle. We'll be right back. Sidelines.live, Sunday afternoon wrap-up show. Okay. I'm telling you, it's just always something.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Hey, Jimmy.
Sidelines with
Hey,
Rob
can I
Browne.
unplug my phone?
Talk sporty to me.
Hey, listeners, it's fall, y'all.
See, this is so much louder.
Yeah.
0852, that's
Okay, can Jimmy hear me? Can I unplug my phone real quick?
I can hear you.
Will it mess up the commercials?
Come and take care of
Will it mess up? Hey, Jimmy. Yeah, yeah. I can barely hear you.
Order online or call ahead and pick up at their speedy drive-thru. And be sure to tell them that Kenny sent you.
Hey, we're talking with Anthony Jones of the Jones Orchards. They've been in Millington, Memphis, and the Mid-South since 1940. Henry, this cool, crisp air.
Why has the commercial not been changed?
They've got the best selection of boots for men, women, and children you'll find anywhere. That's Hewlett
Who's supposed to do
Boot
that?
Clothing Company on the square in Collierville. Open Monday
Yeah,
through
make
Saturday.
you sound much better now. Yeah.
He says, give you these.
Yeah. Because I apologize. That's why we went to commercial break to fix it. I just could barely. Hey, okay. All right, we're coming back on.
No, we're not.
Okay,
Because I don't know.
Jimmy. Let me. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm gonna put you back on the thing. Hold on.
I haven't plugged in yet. I'm trying to figure out where he gets me to plug in.
Why wasn't that Jones Orchard commercial taken off? I mean, yeah. Yeah, see, Dave's saying he's listening. You know, we're working on that. Dave said he can barely hear the other guy.
Yeah, so I have to plug him in here. Like this. Now, can you hear me?
Yeah. I can. Yeah, Jimmy fixed his phone. It was something wrong on his end. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, the unyelling of Audrey never seems to go on.
No, well, my producer is supposed to have this stuff ready to go.
It was.
Okay, hold on. You ready? You ready? Okay, Rob Browne back here with you on the Sunday afternoon edition of Sidelines Live, the Sunday afternoon wrap-up show. And Jimmy Hodge on here with us up in Chicago. Jimmy, you were making some great points about this college football matchup tomorrow night, Ohio State and Alabama. We had to take a quick commercial break, but pick up where you left off.
Well, again, you know, it's just been a long slog for everybody involved, and we're at a point now that we finally got into the championship game. So a lot of people, especially some national writers in other parts of the country, especially in the Northeast, that we would never get this far, and here we are. The SEC, I think, you know, did a great job navigating through the entire journey. Greg Sankey, you know, was really patient, wanted to make sure they didn't start too early, and he kind of just let events dictate and came to the conclusion that the season should begin on September 27th, and they put in some open dates that would allow every team to make adjustments to their schedule should they not be able to play an originally scheduled opponent at the originally scheduled date. And that did happen a few times with LSU, Vandy, Missouri, are the first teams that come to mind because it happened more on multiple occasions with them. But again, the schools would schedule a different conference opponent almost on a moment's notice, and in time to play that weekend. And again, they were able to pull it off, and they deserve a tremendous amount of credit for that.
They really do. I know you and me, and talking with, I remember back early in the summer with Jimmy Ott from ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, who covers LSU, like Kudzu covers the South. And we had the Sankey index. At first we were, you know, questioning him, but I think he really stepped up and, you know, pulled himself from being behind the scene and out of the shadows of Mike Slive. Of course, what a great commissioner Mike Slive was. But now Greg Sankey, I think, is the most powerful commissioner in all of college football. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, he's certainly up there. I mean, the Big Ten is always going to be a huge player because they have roughly 2/3 of the TV sets in the United States in their geographic footprint. So
Yeah.
they're always going to carry a lot of influence just by accident. But Jim Delaney was a master during his, I think it was close to 30-year run of Big Ten commissioner, of leveraging their advantages. And that was probably their number one advantage. And with Kevin Warren, I mean, he just couldn't mishandle this entire situation any worse. And it obliterated their image as a supreme conference that was always unified and totally organized. And, for really much of the college season until they decided to return to playing football or after being goaded for a third time, they finally decided to play beginning in late October. And even then, they had some issues. I mean, Ohio State had played 5 conference games. They had an opportunity to play Illinois to meet the conference minimum requirement of playing 6 regular season games to qualify for their conference championships, but they chose not to play at Illinois when Ryan Day was tested positive. And then afterwards, Michigan, they couldn't renew their rivalry with Ohio State because they missed 2 or 3 games in a row, as did Maryland, who was supposed to play Ohio State. So the Big Ten just changes their rules so that Ohio State can qualify for the game. And of course, they're going to do whatever they can because that's their bell cow. But still, though, they just look like hypocrites, really, on multiple occasions during the season. And also, there came a split, obviously, between some of the school presidents and the head coaches, athletic directors. Then you had parents of players of these programs demonstrating outside the Big Ten corporate offices, and it was just a mess when Kevin Warren said, we're still not going to play and we're not going to revisit the subject. And then 2 weeks later, they're playing again. So it made them look just silly, really. And again, a lot of fans in other conferences who had, been listening to just how superior the Big Ten was to everyone else over all these years. And if you didn't believe it, just ask them. They kind of, had a good laugh at it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And people, the Big Ten, you're right, maybe 2/3 of the TV sets in America, and they added Rutgers, they added Maryland, and it's all about television sets. The numbers, we had Chris Doring on from the SEC Network yesterday morning in the 8:30 to about 9:15 spot on Sports 56 WHBQ. And Jimmy, it was really neat to hear him talk about how good the numbers are, which just shows the interest, the passion that fans have. And I think there's a narrative, and I want you to comment on this. There's been a narrative that was pushed throughout the season. Again, negativity is so easy. It takes no effort to be a lazy slob. But a lot of people were saying, well, people are going to find other things to do with their time and their money if they can't go to the games. Listen, ducks may not migrate to the same place every year, but they've been doing it for thousands and millions of years, okay? I'm over here in Parkin, Arkansas, right in the Mississippi Flyway. There's always ducks and geese here, okay? People are always going to be going to college football games, basketball. They love it. But I'm going to tell you where the problem I see is the transfer portal. These players, no one's going to – that's where you're going to lose your support. And I want you to talk about this, Jimmy. And I know we hear about, Well, coaches can come and go if they want. Let me tell you something. 19, 21, 22-year-old kids, they don't get to make the rules. Okay? It's not how the world works. Until you learn that, you're going to be banging your head against the wall a lot. But that's where we could damage college sports, is if players are just coming and going and leaving at the drop of a hat. Hey, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but it's also got to be cut. Your thoughts, Jimmy?
Well, I think the first year will give us a pretty good indication how this is going to work out. There are a lot of people believe that the strongest programs, notably the perennial top 10 teams and the teams that have been going to the playoff the most since it was implemented in 2014, they are going to benefit the most, because players they want to compete for a championship. And if you're at a school that maybe really granted you a great service by recruiting you when a lot of these other schools didn't, and then you become an immediate success and you're seen by these elite programs, and you decide you want to enter the transfer portal and one of those programs has a spot for you, you can just leave on a moment's notice. I'm not really sure how good that is for the state of the game, because the original program that gave you a chance when nobody else did, they get penalized.
Yeah.
And if that happens on a frequent basis, again, I just don't know how that is good for the sport.
Yeah, I agree with you. You can't do that in life, Jimmy. You had a lot of success in everything you've done in life. You're a winner. But Jimmy, I'm going to ask you this question. Sound like a lawyer in cross-examination. When you started out with Adidas on day one, were you what you were after X number of years on the job? Of course not. I mean, this again, absurd narrative that college athletes are these poor, downtrodden, abused, taken advantage of is a bunch of crap. Okay? The relationships, as Maury Gaston pointed out so brilliantly last week, and you know it and I know it, the relationships that you formed in your days in college with your classmates, your fraternity brothers or sorority sisters, whatever it is, your teammates, last a lifetime. I'm gonna tell you what, tough times don't last forever. Tough people do. Okay. I've always been told this by my parents. If you quit out here because this is too tough, you're gonna quit everything tough in your life from here on. So you've got to decide right now what and who you're gonna be. And I'm we both agree on it. It's just it's a dangerous, slippery slope. And if you put the value, Jimmy, of a college scholarship, you signed to play football at Ole Miss, especially if you're a first kid in your family ever to go to college, you can change everyone in your family's life forever going forward. And you pointed out again yesterday, Jimmy, typically about 3,500 kids a year will sign Division I scholarships. Maybe 35 of them, 1%, are rated 5-star. But if you looked at the Super Bowl roster last year, of the 32 of the players taken in the first round, in the draft, 11. Well, I'm sorry, the draft this was the April 2019 draft or April 2020. You had 11 of the players were 5-star, 10 were 4-star, 9 were 3-star, and one of them, the Duke player that was drafted number 6, wasn't even rated. I mean, you go back, and that stuff's important, but you think about the value of going back, and you pointed out too, when you go back for these reunions to celebrate a championship 10, 20, 30 years ago, everybody there is going to remember what you did when your number was called, won't they?
Sure. Well, I just think everybody just remembers going through the everyday grind of practice. I mean, there's a lot of time spent getting ready to play every game, and especially at the Power 5 level, all you see is game day. And that's all people know about anyone's what they see during games. And obviously that's how your programs are evaluated by wins and losses and so forth. But the players among themselves, they appreciate every aspect of the program, whether it was, equipment managers, players, the entire roster who helped the elite players get ready for every game, from managers, everybody that helped you along the way, tutors, whatever. It's a big operation that's involved, to make sure that a successful program is able to operate and succeed.
Yeah, Jimmy, you think about the people, the managers, the trainers, assistant coaches. My brother-in-law played college football for Virginia Tech, and December the 8th of 1983, and I'm sorry, 1985, I went over to Blacksburg the day before my niece was born, 8 days before my niece was born. And this was on a Sunday afternoon. And Rick is from Rich Creek, Virginia, little town on the West Virginia state line. And he finished at Virginia Tech in 1976. So it was about a decade after he left. We walked over there into the football complex at Virginia Tech, and we walked in, and guy comes up and gives him a hug. Rick Law, how you doing? Remembered where he was from, remembered every injury he'd ever had. And I was like, wow. And he goes, let me tell you something. What we went through, you just build bonds forever. And I think that's what we got to be real careful of is, and these players, they're going to remember you. Your average professional career in the NFL lasts about 3.5 seasons. That's right. A lot of these guys don't even make it through their full fourth season. So, Jimmy, when you were 25, did you have enough money to retire and not work and live comfortably the rest of your life and raise 3 or 4 kids?
No, not many people did.
That's my point. And that's where we are. That's why we got to be real careful. But I think the interest in the game is increasing. I mean, and I've never felt closer to every school out there in the SEC, the American Athletic Conference, just college football fans, because of what we've seen happen this year. And I just think that's really neat what we've seen happen. Look, let's do this. We are going to, Audrey, take a commercial break here in just a minute and come back with Gordon Ford talking some Ole Miss football and some basketball in the SEC and cover some more. But before we do that, let me say something real quick about a sponsor of Sidelines, the Dorian Agency Insurance, whether it's homeowners, life insurance, property and casualty. Tom Dorian is someone you need to have the conversation about insurance with. That's who Audrey and I work with. I've known Tom 43 years. We met with Tom this summer. 2 days later, we were in there going, we want what you're talking about. If he can help you, he will. If nothing needs to be done, what you have works, he's not going to recommend you try to reinvent the wheel. He's a great listener. Father of 5, CBHS alumnus, also University of Memphis alumnus, 3-year starter on the offensive line in the early 80s, college football. He's been there, done that. He's got your back. Give him a call, 901-328-5858, 6240 Poplar Avenue in East Memphis. And if you're like most Americans, you might go years between making a claim on your insurance, homeowners, property and casualty, whatever. They have a program that allows you to get up to a 25% return of premium. The Dorian Agency, 6240 Poplar Avenue in East Memphis, 901-328-5858. Also, Another one of our sponsors, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Bottom line, Red River Ford Toyota, John Dobbs Jr. from Memphis. You know the Dobbs name in the car and truck business. They've been doing it a long time. They're back. John Dobbs Jr. is part of the Red River Auto Group ownership team. October 5th, they purchased, it's now Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Justin Wynn, the general manager, Rusty Howard, the sales manager, a first-class team. We had Austin from the service department on with us Friday, hardcore duck hunter. These people, the service department, everybody, billing, the salesman, general manager, Justin Wynn, are committed to helping you get what you need. And if you don't want to be there all day, they're not going to hot box you. Some guy with a comb over and a clip-on tie, addicted to breath mints, isn't going to hot box you and say, what's it going to take, Mr. Gordon Ford, to get you to drive this here vehicle off the lot, or Jimmy? They're going to be fair. They're going to listen to you, and you can get the process started on the website, redriverford.com. They're in Wynne, Arkansas. It's about a 45-minute drive from Memphis. I-40, get off the Forest City exit, go north 11 miles. Can't miss it. Highway 64 going back and forth between Heber Springs, about a half mile south of Highway 64 by the Walmart in Wynne. They're there every day. They're not open on Sundays, but they're there 8:30 till 6 or 7 at night till the last sale is done, as Justin Wynn says. Great people, Red River Ford Toyota. Go see them. You'll be glad you did. We're proud to have them as a sponsor of Sidelines. Gordon, Jimmy Hodge is on with us up in Chicago. Yes, and we've got Gordon Ford, Mr. Ole Miss Rebel. And hey, look, we've been talking a little bit about the ridiculousness of the opt-out / I quit for the most part in the transfer portal. That's what could hurt college football. The interest isn't going away, nor is the interest in college basketball. And we're already 5 games into the SEC this year. You obviously have forgotten more about basketball than most of Western civilization knows. Let's talk about Ole Miss, the SEC, Memphis, where we are right now, and then we're going to get football and look ahead to this championship game tomorrow night between Ohio State and Clemson. But Gordon, welcome to Sidelines. I'm here with Jimmy and Rob.
Thank you, sir.
You betcha.
Speaking of Ole Miss, they got pounded last night by LSU, and I mean the game. Even you look at the score, it wasn't even close. I mean, and you've got one of your best players from Mello White only getting 4 points. LSU had shut him down, and Trayvon Watford, who just looked like an NBA player last night, just tore Ole Miss up. But Ole Miss's biggest problem is, they play good defense, they steal the ball, they do things like that. They can't score. They can't even hit, some of their players can't even hit a 5-footer. And people they counted on, like Jarkel Joyner and people like that, have not stepped up for them. And they've got Florida at Florida Tuesday night. And to me, I can tell you right now, Florida hadn't looked too swift either.
Look, Mike White, coach of the Gators, they have everything in the world going for them. They're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels in terms of facilities, money.
The best
athletes.
Players hurt.
Yeah, but you're right. Injuries can hurt anybody. But Billy Donovan won 2 national championships at Florida. Before that, Florida really hadn't been a great basketball school. They'd had success, but not like this. Kentucky.
Well, they actually went to the Final Four with Lon Kruger.
Yeah.
And then he went to Illinois. But, yeah, they have had their moments there.
Yeah. But I'm just curious, in your opinion, when you look around Kentucky in the preseason, a lot of people were pushing the panic button. They get into the SEC. What's that telling you about the SEC, or what's that saying about Kentucky and Coach Cal?
Well, one, I think you still have some good teams in the SEC. I don't know if you watched Arkansas yesterday just demolish Georgia. They beat them. It was unbelievable. They shot the ball. They defended. They kind of yanked Connor Vanover in that game, and went with a smaller lineup and won. They were up like 32 at one point. But talking about the SEC, first of all, the team I saw that I thought was kind of weak was Texas A&M. I've seen a lot of them. I think Auburn's okay. I mean, they're 0-3 in the league, but they played a couple teams pretty close and they can shoot the ball. But Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, and these are the teams off the top of my head. Kentucky right now are playing very well. So is Mississippi State. They're 3-1 in the conference.
Jimmy Hodge, you look at the SEC basketball, what we've seen so far, it's almost like it's Carlton the doorman without the fans and everything that it normally is. It's different, but the SEC's gotten a lot better. The coaches, last year, Eric Musselman came to Arkansas, his most recent class, number 5 in the country. Everybody's really putting their foot on the gas when it comes to ramping up their basketball program in the SEC. Where does the SEC rank, in your opinion, in terms of the top 5 or 6 leagues in the country right now?
Well, I would say they're probably maybe third. I would say, well, first of all, I just want to give a quick overview of college basketball in general in my mind. From top to bottom, the ACC is without question, it's not even close, the weakest I've ever seen it. I mean, you're watching, Duke, Carolina, Virginia. I mean, they've all won national championships within the last decade, but watching them, North Carolina in particular, they're virtually unwatchable. They had this great recruiting class, 6 guys coming in. They've only got one guy that can make a 3. And in this day and age in college basketball, if you can't shoot the 3 and you don't have multiple guys that can shoot the 3, you're going to have problems. Their bigs really look like projects. And then Kentucky, now, they won overtime game. They looked good at Florida yesterday, but hung on for dear life to beat Vandy at home. This, talent-wise, is still, I would have to say, Cal's weakest team. And now the Big Ten is probably the strongest from top to bottom it's probably been in my memory. That's why I would put them at number 1. They actually might have a shot to break that 21-year string without winning the national championship. They might have a chance, but and the Big 12, Baylor, Kansas. I think Baylor is going to break the Kansas 800-year string of winning the Big 12 regular season championship. And Texas is really a good team. And so I've got to have the Big 12. Probably, have them second. And then the Pac-12 is, the Pac-12. They're just they'll have a team or two that might make it to the Sweet 16, but right now I just don't see them as a serious contender for the national championship. But as of right now, though, the only 2 teams I have seen that would even be in the top 25 years ago would be Gonzaga and Baylor, because you didn't have everybody and their brother leaving after 1 year because of the one and done.
Yeah.
And you didn't have the AAU circuit really controlling the mindset of these kids nowadays. And the hangers-on, the high school coach in so many ways doesn't have close to the influence the AAU coach does. And then when you have these individual players on these teams I'm talking about, they're very good individual players, but it just looks to me that they're very difficult to coach. I mean, I know.
You know what, Jimmy? You bring up a good point. College basketball is watered down. It's not even any good. And think about it. You've got more schools from like 85 on. You have UMKC, the Appalachian State's Division I. You got a heck of a lot more schools, and because everybody's going pro, it's watered down. I can tell you right now, that team with Bobby Hurley and Christian Leitner, I mean, they would win the national champ. They wouldn't lose a game. And the Kentucky team with Rick Roby and Kyle Macy and those guys, they wouldn't lose a game.
Look, y'all are, I will say this. Both of y'all are dead right. Gordon, you talk about these handlers and all these hangers on with these AAU kids. I mean, it's really gross. You go in there to recruit a kid and there's 15 or 20 people in the den, all with their hands out. And a lot of these kids are sold off in middle school. And the AAU coaches, I started seeing it when my kids were just playing in, the PAA and, church league and different school leagues. Some of these kids all of a sudden in seventh and eighth grade, you'd be playing some of these other teams. These kids are in there. They look like they're 6'8" and they're carrying around $1,000 worth of gear, and they're in seventh or eighth grade and they're playing on something. They're just ringers. And you're right. It's a lot of these guys are great talents, great players, but by no means are they great teammates, are they?
Well, last year, I mean, I just use really the Wiseman situation as the classic example of why the one and done needs to be disbanded. I mean, just ended, because they should go back, in my mind, to the old way. If a kid thinks that he can come out and play in the NBA immediately, which basically nobody would be able to do, but they should have the opportunity. Their adult age, if they want to play in Europe or the NBA D League. And now, I think because of the virus, they weren't able to start it, but the NBA was scheduled to start an African D League this season. And if they don't want to go to college, then, they shouldn't have to. But if they do enroll at school, like in baseball, I don't think the Players Association would ever go for 3 years, having to stay for 3, but they should have to stay for a minimum of 2. The beauty of the 3-year stay in college was that just by staying eligible, even if the baseball thing doesn't work out, you're within shouting distance of a degree. You can come back and have your degree in 2 semesters. And in basketball, in 2 years, you'd only be halfway there. But still, though, it's not insurmountable. And at least make these guys aware that academics are important. But these guys like Ben Simmons, whatever it was 3 years ago at LSU.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a joke.
Yes.
He didn't even go to his class the second semester. And another thing that would stop this insanity is if the AA would come to their senses and require for these players that are only going to be there for what I call their rental season, is that they have to pass more than just 6 hours in the fall semester. Now, you have to register for 12, but all you have to do is pass 6 in the fall semester. You're put on academic probation. And then in the second semester, now you have to register again for 12 hours, but you don't have to go to a single class. And your program's not going to be penalized because the semester doesn't end until a month after the basketball season's over. And only then do you get suspended. So you're still eligible while you're competing in that spring semester. So the whole situation's got to be just turned upside down and managed in a way that makes sense, because there's no reason of having to put players through the charade of pretending they want to go to college when they don't.
Yeah, Jimmy, and I'll throw this, Gordon. I want to ask Gordon now. You're right. How do you build a team when, and again, we're not talking about hundreds of players a year that are good enough to go one and done. What is it? A dozen? I don't know what the numbers are, but wasn't the first player that ever went straight from high school to the pros was Moses Malone out of Petersburg, Virginia, I think it was.
That is correct. He did.
Yeah.
And if you're,
go ahead.
And see, that was, but here's the deal, Rob, what you're not pointing out about that. there was the ABA then.
Yes.
And the ABA started the hardship rule. And you had players like one of the biggest two of the time was Jim Jones, who was at Marquette, who was, a highly touted player. He went to the ABA, and Johnny Newman was one from Ole Miss. And, if your family was in desperate need, you could do it. Then it expanded to what it is today.
Yeah, you had Spencer Haywood was the first I remember.
And Spencer Haywood, I'm sorry about him.
And Bill Mack.
Yeah, you're right.
Bob McAdoo.
All right, let me ask y'all this. Both of y'all, brilliant minds, and I got to say, and you're making my argument for me, but when I think about Dean Smith had a theory about the guys leaving early. He goes, I'd rather get them for a couple of years than not at all. But if they're going to be, I like the baseball model that Jimmy referenced a minute ago. You know what's in here's proof of why it's changed. Who's the first SEC baseball player, the only one ever to be inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame?
I can see his face. I
Frank
think,
Thomas, the Big Hurt.
Frank Thomas, that's right.
Yeah.
He played at Auburn. He was a tight end there as well.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason why is because so many of the guys used to just go straight to, riding around on a bus, single A, double A, triple A, whatever. But I'm saying that when they began to demand, once you sign, you got to play and stay in college at least 3 years. Look what SEC baseball has done. You go back to when Mississippi State in 83 and 84 and 85 had Rafael Palmeiro, Bobby Thigpen, Will Clark. Auburn had Bo Jackson, Greg Olson, Frank Thomas. That's when ESPN began to really ramp it up in covering college baseball. Albert Bell at LSU. So many players. SEC baseball is incredible. And you're going to have more players be inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, but college baseball is growing in popularity. You're able to build a team. When you know those guys are going to be there for 3 years, you can. But if you're worried about if you've got a superstar talent, and Jimmy and Gordon and everybody listening, how many times do we see a freshman come in out of high school? His first game or two, he looks pretty good, and people are going, "Oh, he'll be a one and done, or he'll be gone after 3 years." That's absurd.
A lot.
Yeah, I know. We hear it a lot, but it's absurd. And I was talking to a high school athletic director in Memphis at a big, well-known high school about 5 years ago, and he said, "This is what it's like today," because he's my age, and he said, "I had a mom and dad, the parents came in to talk about their son, and he was an 8th grader, and they came into my office and sat down and said, look, here's what we're going to want to do with Johnny, and this is this and this and that, and blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "I just sat there, didn't say a word, and I listened to him." And I said, they got through, and I said, "Y'all done?" And they said, yes. He goes, "Tell you what, your son's in 8th grade. He's 14 years old. He hadn't even made my team yet. So, I don't know what planet y'all were born on, but he's going to have to earn anything he gets playing for me. And the only thing he'll get for free is a pink slip." And like I said, he hadn't even made my team. So I nothing personal, but don't come in here and tell me how to coach your son when I haven't even coached him yet. But that's what you deal with a lot of the parents today. They live vicariously. I mean, again, you look at the little league baseball, the competitive, they call it baseball. These baseball moms and dads, and the moms typically are the worst, but they're screaming and just, you're playing these kids in 1st and 2nd grade, 70 games a year. You got 12-year-old kids with Tommy John's syndrome, in their shoulders. It's just crazy. And the parents are a couple of fat slobs up there, eating barbecued nachos, dripping cheese all over themselves, screaming at their kids and screaming at the umpires. That's what we've got right now. A lot of these kids, I'm telling you, you crack the whip on them, they'll lay down on you. And all these kids think that they're hot shot because they're entering the transfer portal. All that really is a place for a lot of miserable, unhappy malcontents to get together and swap stories with other crybabies. Jimmy, am I crazy?
No, I mean, on the baseball side, these parents see what kind of money, excuse me, these players make if they ever make it to the major league level. And of course, every parent, when their son reaches that age and they're succeeding at the high school level, they think, oh yeah, my son's a surefire major leaguer. And of course, it doesn't happen that way. But at the same time, though, they have confidence, in their sons, and they're going to support them every way that they can. But lots of times, reality doesn't set in making an honest evaluation of your son's talent level in comparison to players that are surefire. Not only pro baseball prospects, much less a major league process. So you've got to, find people that can provide honest evaluations of these young players.
Yeah, and Gordon, look, you have got great insight. Again, I've been doing radio with you for 33 years now. You tell me, was I onto something? Because I see it, and and I'm not saying all these people are terrible.
No, you are, and it's just unfortunately that's the way it is now. Can I ask you, Jimmy, a question?
Sure.
Jimmy, I get asked this about several times during the season, and people ask me, you saw the show The Scheme on HBO, which kind of talks about what Rob did, been talking about. But then you've got Will Wade, where they've got him on tape in this movie. This documentary. And everyone wonders why he hasn't been fired or the NCAA come in there on him yet. Can you answer that question? Because I get asked that at least, 4 or 5 times a month.
The only answer I can come up with is because he wins games. The LSU people have just media and everybody else has just kind of tried to dance around it. You can't get more hardcore evidence than him saying that he made, a great offer, on the phone. And that
offer he can't refuse, or something to that effect,
or a strong ass.
You're
offer.
Right.
Yeah, that was the exact quote. And then but there's documentation that they paid multiple players. Honestly,
that's what I'm saying is why hasn't the NCAA come in and got him yet? And it's like on an HBO documentary, the whole world has heard what he said, and I don't. He does win games, but still, you got the NCAA. It's like they're not even there, looking at him. I don't understand it.
Well, he's got a great legal team, that's for sure. But I also, I can't understand how Sean Miller's still the coach at Arizona.
That's what I'm saying. How are these guys still coaching? And they're on tape on this show. I don't know if you've seen it, Rob. The Scheme about college basketball is about. What's the guy's name? Dawkins?
Yeah, Johnny Dawkins.
And no, not Johnny Dawkins. What's his name? William Dawkins. But anyway,
Johnny Bravo?
He was this, guy who worked for a shoe company and putting everybody together. And then you've got Sean Miller on tape, and Will Wade, offering players money. And, nobody's done anything, and one assistant coach went to jail, and that's it.
Yeah.
I think Chuck Person was involved in that.
Yeah. Remember that late September 25th of 2017. Story breaks All these coaches, Chuck Person at Auburn, the rifleman, the pride of Brantley, Alabama, played 14 years in the NBA, 15 years as an assistant coach, and blew through all of his money. Okay. He gets in trouble at Auburn for trying to steer a couple of the current players to a particular agent or whatever like that. Pearl claimed he didn't know anything about it. Maybe he didn't. I can tell you one thing. If he'd have been a second lieutenant in the Army, the Marine Corps, and one of his men went out and got drunk in a bar and beat some people up, you know whose ass would be on the line? It'd be that second lieutenant. One man. You know,
but they were talking about these people could go to jail for 30 years and stuff.
Yeah. But nothing happened. You know what Person
Person's
got?
Doing something. I don't know what his deal is, but
Person got
I think
200 hours
some sort of
community service, Gordon. That's what Person got.
You had the assistant coach at Oklahoma State who had previously been at South Carolina. Then you had the Louisville guy. It was assistant coaches that really took the fall.
Yeah.
In many of these cases, same thing at USC. But Sean Miller was involved when they basically paid Ayton $150,000. You know.
Yep.
And again, it's just amazing because, first of all, the NCAA enforcement staff is totally overwhelmed. They don't have enough personnel. And if you have a good legal team, you can drag this thing out and in many cases really create a situation where the NCAA is just tired of it.
Yeah. I think the NCAA has adopted a laissez-faire attitude when it comes to enforcement of the rules. They really don't do anything anymore, and it's really interesting. Hey, Gordon, look, I know you've got choir practice tonight, and got to get off here in a few minutes, but just real quick, Jake Crane's going to be on with us in the 4 to 5 hour with Jimmy and me, and we want you on here more often, not just Saturday mornings, but more often. You bring a hell of a lot of value to the show. Your pick tomorrow night, Alabama, Ohio State in the national championship game.
Oh, Alabama all the way.
Yeah. And this could be number 7 for Nick Saban. And I'll tell you right now, he ain't even thinking about slowing down. And what's scary is his recruiting is getting better. Alabama's bringing in the best offensive line class in school history. But so you pick Bama. Give me a score.
I think it's 42-24, something like that. But I do want to throw one thing in there real quick, and I know my time is short.
Oh, Gordon, you can go long. We're just saying, I knew you had to be at choir practice. You had your robe pressed.
No, not that. I've had something to do. But anyway,
I know.
I'm just going to throw this in too real quick. But you had Steve Sarkisian, who all of a sudden they were going to give him $3.5 million.
Yeah.
And we're going to say he's coaching waiting. And then about 3 days later, he gets the Texas job. Do you think that Saban boosted him up to help him get that job by doing that?
Saban helps his coaches get ready, but when they leave, he's ready to beat them. I don't know. Jimmy, what do you think?
Well, I think he'll do a great job at Texas. I mean, he's got to be better than Tom Herman, but
Well, yeah, I think, Jimmy, I mean, Sarkisian's a great offensive mind. And again, when he had his alcohol problems at Southern Cal's where it kind of blew up, I don't think he's had any problems since he's been at Alabama. Then he went to the Falcons for 2 years and got out of football. I mean, the Falcons are the Falcons. They suck. But then he came back to Bama the last 2 years. Let me tell you something. If you're the football coach at the University of Texas, if you're the football coach at Texas, you're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels. And if you screw that up, you're an idiot.
Yeah, well,
But last but not least, people make fun of his record and talk that he was so. People forget that he took over Washington after the legend Tyrone Willingham.
Yes.
They went 0-12.
0-12, yeah.
And had him winning, I want to say 6 or 7 games the next year.
Yeah.
And then overall, I mean, it was like 8-4 there every year. But he had to rebuild from a total mess.
Yeah, he really did. Hey, let's do this, Gordon. I know you got to go. Jimmy, hang on the line. We're going to do quick
All right.
commercial
Talk to you
break.
later,
Gordon.
Jimmy.
Hey, Gordon.
Okay, Gordon.
Gordon, if you're right on that score, 42-24 Bama, you know what you'll get? A box of fluorescent bulbs, some sponges, and a steamer pack of crystals.
All right, man. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I know you're thrilled. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. You're listening to the www.sidelines.live Sunday afternoon wrap-up show. Jimmy Hodge, national college football contributor up in Chicago, the man who's logged more frequent rider miles on the Greyhound bus than anyone in North America. Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast, #1 in the country after 7 months, will be on with us here in the next hour. Be with you till 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. east of the Chattahoochee Caney Fork and the St. Johns River in Palatka, Florida. And look, we're on every Friday, 3 to 5, sidelines.live, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, Sports 56 WHBQ, 96.1, and the new FM 98.5. And on Sundays, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, sidelines.live. All the shows can be heard live on our website, sidelines.live. And if you miss a show, maybe you're taking a nap, you're sleeping, whatever, you're out riding, you can hear all the shows. They're archived on our website by our brilliant website manager, Nigel Price, the pride of Hereford, England. On sidelines.live. The shows are always up within an hour after every broadcast. Again, we'll be back with more on a Sunday afternoon wrap-up show live from the Cherry Farm in Parkin, Arkansas, where I'm watching the snow geese take over the world. And as Alfred Hitchcock said in the great movie The Birds, oh, the humanity of it all. Get the women and children inside. The snow geese are coming. We'll be right back.
Okay, he said you might have a background. And I can't
Okay.
hear the commercials.
You can't hear the commercials?
I mean, I need the headset.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I'll tell you.
Are you gonna do any live reads? These are gonna go fast. There's not very many commercials.
I don't do the next live read until 4:30. Hold on. Okay.
I'm gonna play.
Okay, Rob Brown back here with you on the Sunday afternoon Sidelines wrap-up show, sidelines.live. You can listen anywhere in the world. It's really cool because we got people all over the place with the web now. You know, you got your local people that listen and people all over the country. We also have a lot of people that are expats. I remember we started Sidelines August the 9th of 2019. Within 30 days, Nigel said we had listeners in 48 different countries. And I don't know who's listening over in Germany, but if you're listening here, the Mad Butcher maybe in Kaiserslautern or Dusseldorf, auf Wiedersehen. But we got a lot of expats and military people listening. Hoorah! And all the veterans and active duty military personnel out there, God bless America. And thank you for your service. We have a lot of fun on here. Jimmy Hodge, that's a lot of fun talking with Gordon Ford there, that segment about the one and dones and the narcissistic, selfish personalities of so many of the kids today. They're really not, they're not students. I mean, it's a mockery of academia. And I'm with you. If you think you're that good, go straight to the NBA. You can be like LeBron James. And I'm sick of being preached to by that guy. Shut up and dribble. Okay. I don't really care what you have to say. I want sports to get away from all that other stuff. All right. And if you're going to college, don't soil the linens of academia. Go to class and be there to get a real degree. Okay. You know, my wife thinks, Jimmy, that everybody that goes to Auburn is in accounting and engineering. And that's not true. And you know what I've always heard about accountants and engineers? They're not boring people. They just get excited about boring things. Jimmy Hodge, what do you think?
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I think the comparison I like to use when you talk about the difference between the ability of elite players in college basketball and college football to go to the NBA or the NFL is this. College football players cannot apply for the NFL draft until 3 years after their high school class graduates. Whereas in college basketball, you have the one and done. And the NFL rule is very smart because physically virtually nobody can go straight from high school football to the NFL. So,
yeah.
And the quality of play
Yeah.
in college football compared to college basketball now.
I'll tell you what, Jimmy, the quality of play in college basketball, as you all pointed out in the first hour, it's laughable. I mean,
compared to what it was.
Yeah.
When you had players that didn't leave until at least after their junior year and in isolated cases after their sophomore year.
Yeah. And I'm with you. Hey, Jake Crane's on here with us now, host of the J-Boy podcast, #1 in the country after only 7 months. Jake Crane, 9 years coaching in college football around the country. South Alabama, 4 years with Joey Jones, former Alabama player, one of Coach Bryant's best receivers. Got that program going at South Alabama. Jake, talk real quick. We've been talking the first hour a lot about the one and done, the transfer portal, and just basically college football and basketball, and how maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea if you think you're that good, just go straight to the NBA or the development league or whatever. But if you go to college, commit for, Jimmy's right, at least 2 years, preferably 3, like in baseball. It'd be good for everybody. You could at least build a team there. But how many hits are you getting on the J-Boy podcast right now? Because if you're not listening to your podcast for football, basketball, baseball, recruiting on the college around the country, then you need to.
Oh, no, well, I appreciate it. Well, you know, like I've said, we're very blessed, very lucky. We just hit 21 million with our reach on Twitter. Had over 200,000 downloads last month, and looking like we're on pace to beat that this month. So just very fortunate, and again, it's doing something that I enjoy, and our audience loves talking ball. You know, there's no, you know, we don't get political or anything like that. And as I tell people, you know, if I was a chef for 9 years, I'd probably have a good chef podcast. So I appreciate the kind words, and
I love that.
you know, it's something that I love to do, and when you know how the sausage is made, it's always fun to kind of talk about it a little bit. So now excited. But the question, you know, Rob, about the one and dones and speaking of basketball, obviously, because, you know, no kid really needs to go from high school to the NFL physically. That's asking way too much, in my opinion. But in the NBA, there's been a few cases, you know, but I look at the amount of guys, you know, who really haven't worked out. And I agree. I think if you play college basketball, it should be 2 years. And to be honest with you, in college baseball, I think it should be 2 years. I don't think it should be 3 years, especially with, you know, the arm life now of guys. But in football, to me, it makes sense to be 3 years to get physically ready for the absolute gladiator arena that is the NFL. Every collision there is like being in a minor to medium level car accident, if not worse. And you have to be able to understand what you're getting into, and your body has to be able to handle every, regardless of what position you play, especially if you play up front. So I agree with you guys. I think it makes players better, obviously. And, you know, to be honest with you, I think it would make the NCAA tournament in the college basketball way better, because what teams do good in that tournament, the teams with older guards
Yep.
that are experienced, that understand how to control and dictate the pace of the game and kind of get it into the alley that they want and the fight that they kind of want. And now you'll have guys coming back for that second year that come tournament time, it won't be their first time to play in the NCAA tournament maybe, or maybe they're so seasoned that they're not overwhelmed and try to do too much. That's why you see some of these teams with all these one and dones and 5-stars get to the second, third round of the NCAA tournament, and they don't understand who they're playing because they haven't had 4 or 5 days to prep for them, and they don't handle it well in that moment. So I agree with you guys.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you go back in, Villanova basketball. They had, the coach, Jay Wright. What, he's won 2 national championships? Is that correct?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, he's won 2. Yep.
Yeah, when he first got to Villanova, they recruited maybe 5 players in their first 3 classes that were 5-star rated. And they were hitting about 500. And they went back and they examined what's wrong with Villanova basketball. And upon a serious reexamination of everything they were doing, they realized, they were recruiting some talented players, but they weren't recruiting players that fit the Villanova model, a small private Catholic university in inner city Philadelphia with very tough, rigorous academic standards. So they went out and they started recruiting players that better fit the Villanova model, the culture. And then they won 2 national championships. And I'll tell you what, I loved the one they won in March of 2016 because I won the office betting pool. I won some shekels. I was pretty dang excited about that. But y'all are right. It's so hard to try to build a team. And that goes for in business or anything. If you got guys leaving after 6 months, they're not going to stick around. Now, loyalty is a 2-way street. A company can talk to you about being loyal, but they need to be loyal to you. Hey, average CEO in America makes 373 times what the employees make with the average employee. Make sure that you're rewarding your people if you want them to stick around. Hey, Jimmy, let's get on to this now. Talking about this game tomorrow night, Ohio State and Alabama. And Jake, we talked in the first hour. Jalen Waddle may or may not play. We don't know. I don't think Alabama has to have him to win, but I tell you what, he's certainly an inspiration for the team, working as hard as he is, coming off that injury he suffered October 24th up in Knoxville when Alabama was curb stomping Tennessee for the 14th year in a row. Golly. But Jimmy, what do you see Ohio State's advantages to be? And what do you see Alabama's weaknesses? And then flip it around, Ohio State's weaknesses and Alabama's advantages.
Well, I think Ohio State offensively certainly believes they're going to be able to move the ball on Alabama. Alabama's defensive front is not going to be confused with the 2016 unit, that's for sure. They're not as dominant, and I'm sure they feel that they can block those guys and create some running spaces for Sermon, who's had his two best games against their last 2 opponents, 331 yards against Northwestern in the Big 12 championship game. Then he had a really good game against Clemson last week. Also, if they can get their running game going, I'm sure they feel they can move the ball. They had a really good outing against Clemson, but truth be told, Clemson defensively is just nowhere close to what they've been the last couple of years, and just overall they weren't as good, even though they were able to win a lot of games in what I consider was a weak league. And then Olave is a very quality wide receiver, as is Wilson. And in the Clemson game, they pulled something out of the hat that we had not seen all year, and that was the tight ends being a passing threat. They used them very effectively in that game. From a defensive standpoint, I think Alabama's got to make sure that they hold up on the front, on the line of scrimmage, because if if you don't get knocked back off the ball, you got a good chance of containing their running game. For the most part, Bama's done a good job all year against the running game. It's just, in a couple of games against very, very high octane quality offenses, Ole Miss and Florida quickly come to mind where they've struggled. So, it's a question there on the Ohio State offensive side of the ball. What is the health of Justin Fields?
Yeah.
I cannot imagine that he's 100%. I think those ribs are going to be an issue. If he can avoid getting hit and the offensive line can keep Bama off of him, I'm sure they'll feel a lot better about their chances. And, Bama's going to have to find a way, because they are most of the time a three-man front. This year, they have changed a little bit. They've gone at times to a four-man front, but the three-man front is their core concept, and pretty much always has been under Saban. So they have to find a way to put pressure on Fields from another source, whether they send one of the linebackers, they blitz a corner, but they've got to send a fourth guy. I mean, 3-on-5 just isn't going to create many threats. Sure. And then Bama, I mean, they simply have to give Mac Jones time to throw the ball. The Ohio State defensive front had a great game against Clemson last week. Clemson, truth be told, wasn't that good up front. Ohio State exploited it, but they do have some good players up front. The obvious weakness in the Ohio State defense is the secondary. I mean, I think Shaun Wade is a definite liability out there at the corner. Even against Clemson, you could see it. Their two linebackers, especially Warner, they've been very good college players, but I don't know about their speed. I think that could be an issue, and I think they could maybe struggle if Bama sends anybody out of the backfield, which they have done at times this year. So both teams, I think, are going to put in some wrinkles.
Yeah.
But if Ohio State plays at their best, Alabama plays at their best, Alabama's going to win.
Yeah. Jake Crane, I want the coach in you to come out right now. Be Ryan Day. You have to play 6 games. You beat Northwestern 22-10 in the Big Ten championship. You're playing an Alabama team, 11-12. This is game 13 for Bama, game 9 for you. How are you going to attack Alabama, and what do you not want to happen in the first quarter?
Well, to be honest with you, Rob, I don't think you or the FCC wants the coach to come out of me, because I'm not allowed to say that on the air. But looking at it, if I'm Ryan Day, obviously looking at it from an offensive point of view, attacking Alabama on defense, there's been some slices in the Alabama armor. I think if it's me, with the bodies that I have on defense, with the depth that I have on defense, with the trust that I have in my defensive front, I'm probably going to go up-tempo at Alabama. And not only am I going to go up-tempo, I'm probably going to try and be as multiple as possible while I'm going up-tempo. I'm going to try and catch them in their base defense, so I know where everybody is, where they're going to be. I know how many safeties are up top, and if they're buzzing, if they're spinning down, if it's man or if it's zone. So if I can control what you're going to be in, then that controls what I call. And it really takes the genius out of it, because you see things so many times that you're trying to get a defense not only in a certain matchup for a guy you may have, but in a certain look. And if you make a certain motion or a certain adjustment, especially when you're going up tempo, because they don't have that much time to try and get new guys in or try and get ready to check your checks, and it's not a true check with me, then you're going to be able to catch them in about as simple as possible as they're going to be on defense. And I would use my intermediate passing game. I think the adrenaline's going to help Fields with his ribs. I thought he played out of his mind last week. I don't think he'll play that good. But I do think it's going to limit how many zone reads that he's able to keep, how much of the run game is really used. I'd be surprised when you see it anywhere outside of the goal line. But if I'm Ryan Day, I'm going to try and beat him with tempo I'm going to try and beat him with versatility out of tempo. I'm going to give him a lot of motions. I'm going to get in quads a lot. I'm going to get in empty a lot, whether I motion back to back to the backfield, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to try and find a way to keep Alabama as simple on defense so I can make it easy for Justin Fields, so I don't have to run in that much of the run game except by the goal line. And I think that can keep me in it with my defense for 4 quarters. But if I'm Ryan Day, also, special teams is a huge deal here. Field position is a huge deal here. That's something I'm harping on all week. A block punt can change the momentum of the game. A return kick. We got to make sure our snaps are good, our holds are good on field goal, because it could be really close. But if you're going to try and slow Alabama down on defense, man, it's tough, especially if Waddle plays. There's not a great recipe to do that. I would say try and mix it up, but you got to bracket somebody, and you got to choose, is it going to be Waddle or is it going to be Smith? Not only do you have to choose that, if you're going to bracket somebody, you're obviously telling your guys you're feeling pass a lot, which is going to let Najee Harris and that monstrous O-line have numbers in the box that are able to run the ball. So I think you might as well, to me, just blitz them, show pressure, and not. I think you just show pressure the whole time. Sometimes you bring it, sometimes you don't. I know it leaves you exposed in man, but make Mac Jones make an anticipatory throw. You can bail the corners, do things like that, because if Mac Jones sits back in the pocket, I don't care if you got 8 guys, 9, 10, 11, 33 in coverage. You're not covering Devontae Smith for that long. You're not covering Jalen Waddle for that long. And Billingsley's starting to figure it out, which is a huge problem. And to me, I think he may have the biggest game of any of them.
Yeah. Hey, Rob Anderson, Shoney is on the line with us from down in Valdosta, Georgia. And Sony texted me and said, hey, I'd like to talk to Jake and Jimmy real quick. And Shoney, you've got your finger on the pulse of college or high school football in South Georgia, Lowndes County, Valdosta, Bainbridge, Tifton, Cordell, Waycross, Blakely. Man, it's a virtual cornucopia. It's just so much talent down there. We're talking about this Ohio State Alabama game. Both teams have got players from South Georgia on the roster. What's it about the water or the air down there? But what in the world do y'all do? What, as Slim Pickens said in the movie Blazing Saddles, what in the wide world of sports is going on here, boys? Shoney, welcome to the show.
You know what the rule is down here.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot else going on, so you got to play football when you're a kid.
Yeah, you're right. Jake, Shoney.
The problem they got down here is keeping all of you Atlanta guys straight.
Yeah.
Y'all decide y'all want to get good all of a sudden.
Yep. Hey, Jake, Jimmy, and Jake, Shoney and I went to Auburn together. And he really covers the high school football, knows it real well. Jake, what do you think about Rush Probst and Jamie Dubose being at Lowndes and Valdosta? And Rob kind of talked about that, but Jake, what are your thoughts about that? And how do you get 2 coaches of that stature to be in the same county? Is there enough room for their egos?
Again, if it's the right fit, it's the right fit, especially at certain points in guys' careers. I mean, you look at Mark Hudspeth, he just took the Gulf Shores high school job down there in Alabama, not there at the bottom in LA, Lower Alabama, as we call it. But again, I think it's a testament to the level of ball that's played there as well, the passion that's played there. But a lot of the stuff in the coaching world comes down to fit and timing. And it's a great situation for everybody in that community, because you're getting to see guys that are playing at a high level, that are running systems that are pretty intricate for that level. And it really prepares kids in that community that are there to play at the next level, because there is a ton of talent. There's a lot of coaches that go in there. I've been in there before, and I know how it works. But having those 2 guys there is not only great for the fans that get to watch, but it's great for the development of the players. It's great for the kids in the youth league that know they're getting to play for a coach that understands how they do it at the next level, and the parents are actually have a built-in advantage where they are, and it just makes a whole lot of sense. So it's just a great situation, and my hat's off to those guys, and I know it's fun, and I know there's some battles going on too.
Yeah, there are. Shoney, come on back in with us.
Jake, I'd love to meet you sometime when you get down here in South Georgia.
Definitely.
And congratulations very much on the success of your podcast. I'm about Rob's age,
A couple of years younger. I tell you what, though, but I've pounded a few road sodas in the time with you.
Yeah, well, I know Rob was in college for 9 years. So
I was
that makes sense.
redshirted twice. Fell out of my chair in
Yeah.
economics and hit
He's
my head.
only
And
got a
came
red
back for
shirt,
a
blue
six.
shirt, and gray shirt.
Yeah, that's right.
Son.
That's right.
Yeah, I kind of got a kick out of Rob earlier when he was talking about the one and done stuff. I'm like, don't we have to make progress towards graduation? I feel like that's probably why a lot of them are gone after 3 years now. I suspect.
Yeah, I had a coach one time that was joking around, told me, he said, here at the school, I'm not going to say where we're working at. He goes, academics comes first, and he held up the number 2, and athletics comes second, and he held up the number 1. So that was kind of a running joke. But no, I appreciate the kind words too, and definitely next time I'm down there, let's hang out and drink an adult soda or road soda, as the great Rob Browne would say.
Hey, I tell you a true story. That term road soda, you talk to anybody from LaGrange, Illinois or Naperville, Illinois, they will tell you that's what they call a cold beer. And Shoney, when I got down to Auburn as a pledge down there, 715 West Magnolia, the Sigma Newhouse, they come up and they go, hey, Rob, how about a cold beer? And I'd say, what, as opposed to one of those hot ones that's been in your trunk for a week? What other kind of beer is there but cold beer? But Shoney, hey, high school football. And Jimmy, you're up in Chicago, and that state ranks, 10th in the country for producing the most high school football talent? And you never believe it by looking at Illinois. I mean, they are about as inept as the economy in, Venezuela right now. I don't know how that happens, but I want to ask you, Jimmy, your thoughts about the high school talent, the explosion of talent in the state of Georgia. About 250 players this year will sign Division I scholarships. And Georgia's the 4th most talent-rich state in America, and it borders Florida, the 3rd most talent-rich state. Now, California is 2nd, right behind Texas, number 1. If you go back and look, since 1980, when Georgia won their last national championship, over the last 40 years, you have to have a Betamax to see the Georgia, video of their last title, and they have a great tradition. They've had a few near misses, but if you count up Clemson, Tennessee, Florida, Florida State, Miami, Auburn, and Alabama, and again Tennessee, those schools combined have won 26 national championships in the last 40 years since Georgia won their last one. Go you, Herschel Walker. My God, a freshman. Look at those thighs. Jimmy, your thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of it is just the migration of, over the last 25 years, millions of people from the cold weather, high tax states in the Northeast and the Midwest down to the Southeast, where the cost of living is much more affordable. The weather is much better, much more conducive to being able to, train outside all year round. And then it's hardly a secret of the passion that the people for the Southeast have for not only college football, but certainly high school football. It's very contagious, and the coaching's very good. With that being said, it is surprising how many good players you have in Illinois. The level of football here is good. The coaching is good, but again, you just don't have in many places just the passion for the sport from such an early age. But with that being said, Billingsley, the young, they call him a tight end on the Alabama roster. He's really, in all reality, he's a wide receiver. I mean, he's not going to block or anything like that, but he maybe in the NFL they could put weight on him and he could be a really dangerous threat as a tight end. But he's from Chicago, and they're getting more and more players that, with the coverage of college football that's available, and they see the quality of SEC football. Kids from Illinois, Michigan, Iowa. Hassenauer, was from Iowa. Pierce Bacher, Mark Ingram, of course, came from Michigan. So you're seeing a lot of interest from some of these elite players in the upper Midwest and the Northeast. I mean, the DC Maryland corridor coming and playing at SEC schools.
Yeah. Alabama's done really well up there. Look, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Before we do that, I want to say something about two of our sponsors. Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas. That is on the other side of Crowley's Ridge. I'm looking at it right now here at the Cherry Farm and Park in Arkansas, looking through the Sunset Lounge and the reflection of that beautiful red and blue Ham's Beer sign that is in the window. All we need to go with it now is a leg lamp, like in Christmas Story. Oh, you should see it, honey. Look at it. It's Italian. It's from Italy. It says Fragile. But, man, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're driving from Memphis going to Little Rock, get off at the Forest City exit, go north 11 miles. You cannot miss Red River Ford Toyota. Highway 64 going back and forth to Heber Springs, half mile south of Highway 64 by the Walmart in Wynne, Arkansas. Justin Wynn's the general manager. You want to work with him. If you're looking for it, he'll help you find it. Over 700 used cars and trucks and SUVs, and they can get more. They've got the resources to go find what you're looking for. Rusty Howard, the sales manager. Love this guy. We had Austin from the service department on Friday, hardcore duck hunter. Justin's driving a black Toyota Tundra with the tires on it. I don't think he could get stuck. He could haul Bigfoot out in that thing. Great people to work with. Red River Ford Toyota. One of the members of the Red River Auto Group, John Dobbs Jr. from Memphis. You know the Dobbs family name, the car and truck and SUV business for a long, long time. John Dobbs and this team are committed to helping you. You can get the process started online, redriverfordtoyota.com. Check them out on our website. They're open Monday through Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas. Also, Tom Dorian, the Dorian Agency. Most people don't like talking about insurance. Most people don't like talking about a lot of things like taxes and colonoscopies. You got to have insurance, property and casualty, homeowners, life insurance. Have that conversation with Tom Dorian. It's like talking to an old friend. Easy to talk to, great listener, CBHS alumnus, member of the state championship team in 77, 3-year starter on the offensive line for the Memphis Tigers. Hey, remember that movie, Everybody's All-American? Hey, Dennis Quaid and John Goodman, he's the big offensive lineman. He'll always have your back. Great people to work with. 6240 Poplar Avenue in East Memphis, right before the Chick-fil-A near Poplar and Massey. Call him, 901-328-5858. Also, if you're like most Americans, you might go years between making a claim on your insurance, property and casualty, or homeowners. They have a program that allows you to get up to a 25% return of premium. The Dorian Agency. Check them out on our website or call them 901-328-5858. Rob Browne here with you, broadcasting Fireside. MJ's over there, got the fire. Eternal Fire has been going since December 10th over here, except for a few collapses. We're looking out. We got Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago, Jake Crane in Tupelo, Rob Anderson. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll get you back on here again soon. But we'll be back with you for a little while longer on the Sunday afternoon wrap-up show, Sidelines.live. Okay. Oops. No, there's more wires running around here than somebody in the intensive care unit. Y'all go scout?
Move some decoys around.
Woo. How long?
You don't have, you can't leave. Put 'em on. I'm gonna play Shannon. Rob, put 'em on.
Okay, Rob Brown here with you on the Sunday afternoon Sidelines Live wrap-up show. And man, we're having fun. We just had Shoney on with us from down in South Georgia. And we've got Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast in Tupelo, Jimmy Hodge in Chicago. I'll throw this one at you, Jake. Looking at the college football recruiting, you know, a lot of schools, South Carolina, they've got Shane Beamer. Auburn's got Brian Harsin. It's the new coach. Vanderbilt, they're Vanderbilt. I don't know what they'll do in recruiting. But can you make up enough ground? I know last year when Sam Pittman took over at Fayetteville, the Razorbacks were ranked 110th in the nation in recruiting after the early signing period, December 18th. And by February 1st, the Hogs were 29th in the country. Can Auburn, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, other schools that are in the 50s or 60s close out and finish in the top 10, top 15 realistically?
Well, I mean, see, here's the way you got to look at it. Are you going to rank people that are in the transfer portal? Because if it's me and I'm Auburn or South Carolina or somebody, I would much rather get a kid that already played 2 years of college football than take a chance on a kid in high school if I can keep that spot and it'll keep my numbers fine on the roster. So I think you may see that. So, you know, if they rank some of these transfers, I guess, but since this year is such a weird year and you have obviously almost basically free agency, it seems, with no penalty, I don't know how much the rankings really mean this year because you're always going to take experience and, you know, proven experience, especially if it's a player that's had success in a league that's tough or against competition that's tough or really flashes or pops on film when he's playing against other collegiate guys that have been through that college weight room, that have been through that program, that have been through that system. So I don't know how much stock I'd really put in the rankings. I think at this point, it's almost like in the NFL, you know, you're trying to plug needs. You look at what Auburn needs up front on the offensive line. They need tackles. They need bodies in general. But if they could go get a guy that has a couple of years of Power 5 experience, that'd be huge. It would alleviate at least a little bit. You get a couple of those guys and a couple pass rushers that you feel that are capable to add on that defense. And you have pieces around there. Now, you need probably a wide receiver and I think a quarterback out of the portal to put some pressure on Bo Nix. Even though Demetrius Davis is an early enrollee, put up a bunch of records. I think he needs a year in the throwing program and to go through the offense with Mike Bobo because a lot of it is moving parts and you have to be in different spots and you're in shotgun, you're under center. So I wouldn't put too much stock in the rankings this year at least.
Yeah, that's interesting. Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what Auburn has to do. Look at that transfer portal. You have a lot of players who, over their current college careers, especially up front and the offensive line in particular, that have developed nicely. And, the coaching staff has seen a lot of tapes when they're scouting opponents this past season. And while they're, watching those tapes, they're also sometimes able to stumble on prospects they see on opposing teams that look good on tape. And they can kind of get information from, different coaches they know in those areas and so forth. And, see an opportunity to bring in experienced players that have been successful. And also you can never overlook the junior college angle. A lot of those players have 2 years of experience, and in Mississippi and in Kansas, both very good junior college leagues. And it's certainly an opportunity, just like Lane Kiffin has openly spoken about the fact that for them to fix things defensively, they can't expect to come up with a solution immediately with high school recruits. Although there are always some surprises, but from getting immediate help, you got to be looking at the also at the transfer portal and the JC ranks, and of course Lane being in Mississippi, I'm sure he's got a lot of people on his staff that know those junior college coaches and high school coaches, and of course he knows college coaches from all over the country. So there's certainly opportunities there, and that's what you have to look at immediately. But I think also Auburn and Ole Miss can really use the sales pitch that hey, you guys come here, you've got a chance to play immediately, and we're playing in the best league in college football. And if you get a chance to or you're good enough to either start for us or get a lot of playing time, you're going to have an opportunity to play against the best teams in college football, and furthermore, be seen by NFL coaches if you possibly become good enough to be considered to be drafted or be good enough to make a future contribution to an NFL team. So quality competition, a program that has a history of success and a chance for immediate playing time. That's an attractive combination for a lot of these prospects.
Yeah, it is. And yesterday, Jake, we were talking about Brian Harsin coming down from Boise State, and you've coached out west, Montana, and it's different out there. I mean, it's beautiful. Not as many people, but they love their football everywhere. I think he has the third best winning percentage in college football in the last 7 years, behind a guy named Nick Saban, another guy named Dabo Swinney. I think a winner, no matter where he is going to surround himself with like-minded, competitive, success-driven people, and it doesn't matter where you're from. Again, Les Miles came to LSU. He's a Michigan guy, did pretty well. Now he was pretty much of a Barney Rubble type mentally, but then you look at Nick Saban, look at Urban Meyer. None of these guys were from the South. They didn't know about pot liquor, and they didn't know everything about Southern lifestyle and culture, but they figured it out real fast, and players are attracted to winners like that, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you want to play for guys that you think have a plan and that care about you, but you don't have to be from the South to know how to hire people or know what you're doing or to understand how to run something, because at the end of the day, a football program at the highest level that has the resources that it has is run like a business, because it is a billion-dollar industry. It is the sport that makes most of the money. When it comes down to it, it's the thing that keeps a lot of people afloat. It's also a big part of the economic development and around it. So if you have a guy that knows what he's doing, that has a vision, that is organized, that understands how important recruiting is, that understands how important the structure and the personnel in the recruiting department of the school that he is at becomes when he takes the job, especially if you look around, if you're at Auburn, you see Alabama and you see Georgia. Not only is it a paper war or a propaganda war, it's also a war of having the nicest facilities and being able to have coaches that kids can relate to. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to you got to be genuine. But to be a CEO, again, you don't have to have invented the hamburger to be the CEO of McDonald's. That's kind of the way I think about it.
No, I think that's a great point. Hey, Jimmy and Jake, Mitch Davis is on with us right now, and wanted to get in now, back into some college basketball. We've been going football, basketball, recruiting, and Mitch, yesterday had a lot of fun on the show, talking about everything. The Chris Doring section was fantastic. Lauren Smith, Jake, Jimmy, everybody. And I want Mitch, I want you to comment, get your thoughts about the state of college basketball. Obviously, you're younger than us, but Jimmy and I and Gordon Ford was on in the first from 3:30 to 4 segment, talked about the basketball today, the quality of play and everything like that is nowhere close to what it was a few years ago. And it's obvious the ACC is really down this year. Whatever reasons, I don't know. But your thoughts about all that, and then I'm going to throw that back to Jimmy and Jake.
Yeah, so, the game of college basketball, it really took a hit. It was like 4 or 5 years ago when I first started getting into the business with the NCAA, FBI probes. It really took a major hit, and now it's kind of coming back. ACC has always been the catalyst for the best college basketball. Of course, you got Duke, Carolina, NC State, programs like Wake Forest that have always been good. But you see the recruiting side of things, and one thing to me that really has hurt college basketball has been the one and done. Duke and Kentucky have been the major programs who have stuck by the one and done. They have done the one and done way. It is one and done for Kentucky and Duke, which in a season like in the pandemic season we're seeing right now, you have absolutely no preseason, you have no exhibition games, you have no, Big Blue Madness, Blue Devil Madness, or whatever those first practices are called there in October. You don't have any of that. And also, you don't have your foreign trips that a lot of these programs take in August or July, where they go to the Bahamas or go to Europe, go to Italy, and play these foreign, professional basketball teams. And we don't have that this year. And you're seeing that a lot in these freshmen, that they are inexperienced and not exactly ready to play. Like we saw last night, Ole Miss, very inexperienced team. They start a lot of freshmen. They have a lot of freshmen on the team. They faced off against an LSU team who they didn't find out that they were playing until 36 hours before tip-off. I think it was less than that, because the South Carolina game got canceled. Then they picked up LSU. It was at the Pavilion. But when you have such a quick turnaround with freshmen, you're going to probably get beat. And that's what happened to Ole Miss last night. They ran into a buzzsaw. LSU ran the 1-3-1 on the Rebels and really tried to push the Rebels outside of the normal tempo. Kermit Davis said it was on him. He said, hey, that was a coaching mistake of my era because I didn't expect for it. But you're seeing a lot of that across college basketball. I mean, you saw Kentucky lose 6 straight games in the non-conference play. Now that they've kind of got underneath themselves and started playing Dante Allen a little bit more, and they also got Keon Brooks back last night, you're seeing a brand new Kentucky team now that they've got experience, now that they've got those experienced guys out on the court.
Well, I want to throw this one at you, Mitch, Jake, Jimmy. Let's talk about Memphis basketball. 2 years ago, Penny Hardaway signed what was regarded as the number 1 recruiting class in the country. And we saw what happened last year with Wiseman. And what was his career at Memphis? A handful of games, he was gone. Memphis, they're not knocking on the door of the Final Four. They're not a great team. I got to ask this question. Can Penny Hardaway coach? I mean, is he as good a coach as Eric Musselman at Arkansas? This guy,
absolutely not.
No, it's not even close.
Not.
It's
and
not even
that,
close. Yeah.
Now that I'm away from Tiger Sports Report, I can actually say the truth about Penny Hardaway. Penny Hardaway is not the guy. He is not the right guy for the job. Yeah. He is Memphis's boy. He is Memphis. I love Penny. I love what Penny stands for. But there's a difference in high school basketball coaching and college basketball coaching. And that's what we're seeing with Penny Hardaway. He, got in such a mindset where one great player in high school, let's say James Wiseman in high school, can win the national championship. In college, it takes 2 or 3 good players with a great player to win a national championship, to win these conferences. And that's what Penny Hardaway is running amongst Memphis fans, is starting to run out with Penny, especially talking a lot of those high-dollar boosters. They are so torn because, Penny is the guy. I mean, Penny is everything for Memphis basketball. Memphis basketball put on the map by Penny Hardaway. But it's always a bad idea to hire one of your own, because it makes it 10 times harder to fire one of your own rather than to let them succeed and let them really just try to implement something. And I'll be honest with you, I'll say this, and then I'll shut up after this. But I think they should have kept Tubby Smith. Tubby Smith was a great coach. He got lazy in the recruiting cycle, but he was recruiting 4-year players He was recruiting guys that was going to stay at the program for 4 to 5 years. And that's what you need at the University of Memphis. That's what you need at the University of Kentucky. And even if they would have brought in Penny Hardaway as maybe as associate head coach and let Tubby do the X and O's, Penny is the recruiting, I think that would have worked out well. But a lot of the administration got, I don't really know the right word per se, but they got a little, they
Carried
jumped
away.
the gun a little too much. They only gave Tubby Smith 2 seasons.
Yeah, let me say this before we go to Jake Crane, and then we're going to go back to Jimmy, and then Billy Roberts is on with us from Atlanta. We're going to talk about some stuff here. We're going to go a little long sidelines extra today, and got the fireside. You ought to see this scene here at the Cherry Farm and Park in Arkansas. MJ over there snoozing. He looks like Leif Crick from the Beverly Hillbillies over there, and got Robert Hill in the recliner. Mr. Cherry over there standing in front of that fire. Don't let your pants catch on fire. Miss Audrey over there wearing her cool hat. Hunter's over there snoozing in the big chair. We got Eric. We got Derek from up in Illinois down here hunting. They've been chasing ducks. And by the way, I'm going to the post office tomorrow, and I expect to see a picture of a mallard on there, most wanted. I don't know where they went, but we're having a lot of fun over here. But I want to say this, Jake. Penny Hardaway, and it's true. In high school, you can control a lot more than you can in college. Yeah. And Jake, you are very competitive. We all are on this show. What's going on, in your opinion, with Memphis basketball and the kids they've recruited and just the inability of them to produce on the court? We know about Wiseman. He's gone.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, look, they've recruited talented guys. When I watch them play, though, and it's kind of been this way. Now, when you have a guy like James Wiseman who's on the court, it's pretty easy to be organized offensively. You just give him the ball, and they stuff him out to somebody that's wide open. You don't have, you don't have to be Gene Hackman from Hoosiers to figure that out. But when I watch their style of play, I understand people being up tempo. And when I watched them play Auburn earlier this year, it almost played into Auburn's hands because Auburn's so young and inexperienced. They're not super organized, and it's kind of chaotic. And they didn't have their point guard, Sharif Cooper. And it kind of played into their hands and was able to kind of get them comfortable almost being chaotic. And I don't think you're able to win that way in basketball consistently, especially when it comes down to the tournament. Because like I said, in the tournament, number one, you really don't have a great idea who you're playing most of the time, except for a day and a half, 2 days before, outside of that first game. So you don't have ample prep time. And you need veteran guys, especially at the guard position, that understand how to dictate the pace of the game. Because if you can just like football, just like anything, if you can dictate the pace of the game and put the other team in a reactionary position, you can control it. But again, it doesn't matter how much, accolades come with guys. It's a team sport. Unless you're 7'5" or you throw the ball 110 miles an hour. So I think it's a little bit of that, to be honest with you. But, if this is the last thing I get to say, I do want to say this. Sharif Cooper's a witch. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. No. Hey, look,
I tell you what, I enjoyed watching that Auburn team yesterday. And I will say this, since you mentioned Auburn, you guys played Alabama, and I think that Alabama is the best team in the SEC all around. I know Tennessee's good. I know Kentucky's good now. But when you look at Alabama from top to bottom, their starting five, including they go 8-9 deep, their starting 8-9 guys can play anywhere else in the country. And Nate Oates, I tell you what, that dude is one of the best college basketball coaches in the country and probably one of the best up-and-coming stars that could land himself at a Kentucky or Duke, Kansas, or North Carolina here in the next 5 to 10 years.
That'd be fun to watch. Jimmy Hodge, I will say, I don't see Nate Oates leaving Alabama to go to Kentucky. He came from Buffalo. Auburn's athletic director, Alan Green, hired him when he was the AD at Buffalo. But Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago, come on in here on this one.
Well, yeah, Nate Oates was an absolute grand slam hire by Browne. He kind of slipped under the radar in the process of getting him because I thought he was going to be the top name for a number of schools. And just in his, I think 4 years after he replaced Bobby Hurley, who went to Arizona State, Bobby hired him after a tremendous run in the Detroit area. That involved a couple of state championships and so forth. And Hurley personally recommended him after he took the Arizona State job. And I think in just his 4 years at Buffalo, he was awarded 3 contract extensions. So they really wanted to keep him. But when, Browne contacted him, he said, hey, this is one I got to take. And I got to tell you guys, I don't think there are many better basketball jobs at the Power 5 level than when you're at a football school.
It helps recruiting.
Yes, it helps recruiting, and the fan base just wants you to play an entertaining style of basketball. And in this case, they have a plan. He's got a blueprint of how he wants to play. He wants to run up and down, shoot a lot of threes. He wants to play a lot of players and then exploit the lack of depth of his opponents. And, that I don't foresee him leaving Alabama either. And I mean, Alabama's one of those schools that, they won't pay Kentucky money to their basketball coach or Duke money. But let's just put it this way. If he continues in the direction we think he's going to go, he's not going to be starving if he stays in Tuscaloosa. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as, getting back to what Mitch mentioned earlier, and to me, that this is the big event that really got us where we are in college basketball, and that's the one and done. It just has created a very difficult environment for coaches nowadays because the AAU influence on these players is such, and the hangers-on have so much influence that the players, even though there are so many individual players, and even like the SEC, I think this is the best collection of coaches, basketball coaches, the SEC's ever had at one time. But yet you can still see during games the frustration these guys feel because it's like, you can tell it's really hard to coach these guys.
Yeah.
It's hard to mold them into a team. And you watch the shot selection. It's just horrendous.
Horrible.
And it's just, again, it's too many guys that have just, they're worried about their individual stats and not as much about the team. And as a result, it's really hard to mold a cohesive unit. But the flip side of the one and done is that without it, you would have never had Butler going to back-to-back national championship games.
Well,
you would have never had VCU going from the first 4 to the final 4. And these teams these so-called mid-major programs that have experienced players that have been in the program 3 or 4 years, they have a chance to make a real run in the NCAA tournament. Like, for example, I think Dayton would have been the team to beat to win it all.
Correct.
So
Jimmy, let me throw something at you.
Flip side of it.
Yeah. What happened? Remember a couple of years ago, University of Chicago, Loyola had the, I think, 100-year-old Sister Schubert, whatever her name was, but she was
Sister
really
Jean,
cool.
My daughter goes there.
Yeah, and it's a great school. And man, that was so exciting because you've got a lot of people on that team that have been together for 3 or 4 years, and you built a team. And that's a great point. And all this other distraction about one and done, 2 and gone, whatever. And that is, they build a team. You got some guards. You got people that can shoot. And let's make a comparison. And then I want to go to Jake. And I know, Jake, you've got to get off, but we're going to go a little bit long today. But the European basketball players that come over here and play in the NBA, they do really well because in Europe, they spend usually at least 1 full day a week on nothing but fundamentals. You remember, I can tell you, when Cal was at Memphis, Memphis was up by 9 points with about 2 minutes left against Kansas. And they could not hit the side of a barn when it came to shooting free throws. And it caught up with them, and they lost the national championship. anyway, Jake Crane, I know you want to say something before you got to go, and this has been fun. We're going to go a little bit long today, folks, but Jake, make your closing argument before the and point to the jury.
I agree that Nate Oates is a good coach. It was a good hire by Bama. Good job by Alan Green at Buffalo as well. But, I think we got to be easy when we start talking about him going to Duke or Kansas. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, they lost to Western Kentucky, and everybody at Alabama wanted to fire him. I mean, he hasn't made the tournament or one.
Yeah.
Had something go down at practice that caused a problem, and actually he's now looking like it may have been one of the best things that could have happened to him. But the way Alabama plays is the way kind of Auburn plays a little bit, is that when you're shooting the three well, you're going to win games. And when you catch teams, when you're shooting the three well and they're not at that volume, you're going to beat them. Auburn got hot and made a run all the way to the Final Four because they couldn't miss a three for about a month.
Yeah.
If you guys remember, they weren't super dominant from 3-point all the way from the beginning of the season on. So that's why they run that offense, because it can get hot come tournament time. But, I mean, you got to win something before we say you're going to Kansas or Duke. And I think if Auburn had Justin Powell the other night, they probably would have won, because you had to have three guys cover Sharif Cooper, and Justin Powell can make a three with his eyes closed. So I just think about what Bruce Pearl has with Sharif Cooper, who's probably going to have to come back because of his height, and obviously didn't play a lot this season. You got Jabari Smith Jr. coming in, who's better than anybody that was on the court in that game. You have JT Thor that's probably coming back. I think this Auburn team next year may have a chance to win national championship, but the Iron Bowl of basketball is fun again, baby, and that's what it's about.
You're exactly right, Jake. Iron Bowl basketball, big. And Sharif Cooper, I don't think he's a one and done. I mean, he's one of the top 5 or 10 players in the country coming in. He's just now, yesterday was his first game to get to play. I don't know what the NCAA was doing, dragging their feet. I don't care if they're working remote or not. Everybody else is. You need to address these situations instead of denying this kid, 8, 9 games. It's absurd. I think the NCAA is a mess. I don't know how much longer they're going to be around, but Jake, those are great points. Listen, man, loved your comments. We're going to go a little bit, longer here today. And if you want to stay on, we'd love to have
Rob,
you.
Before Jake gets off here, I want to announce to everybody, I look forward to having Jake come on the Countdown to Kickoff show with me tomorrow. We got a Zoom call later tonight to discuss all the details. But for your audience on the sidelines, Jake and I will be doing a Countdown to Kickoff national championship preview tomorrow night, probably about an hour before kickoff.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Mitch, I'm looking forward to it. Hey, we'll talk later, buddy.
Yeah, great collaboration of two great minds. Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast. Awesome, as always. Great job, Mitch Davis, Jimmy Hodge. Hey, Billy Roberts over in Atlanta. And, Billy, let's close out the last few minutes here. I want to talk about something we got into last week. We had Kyle Orr from Melt Atlanta, Inc., sports marketing and branding company founded by a friend of mine from Chatham, Alabama, down in Washington County in L.A., Lower Alabama. Vince Thompson. But Kyle Orr was talking with us last week about the name, image, and likeness issue. And Jimmy, Mitch, Billy, you're right there in Atlanta. You live actually there in Brookhaven, right down the street from Buckhead there, and now where Melt is at the Ritz-Carlton. Kyle Orr made a great point last week, Billy. About $8 billion a year is spent on, advertising and all with college athletics. They think that number could double. And all this opting out / I quit is what I call it. That's just a euphemism for I quit. And again, I like to say this because it's out of respect to the military and the hard work that they do. And by the way, I don't ever hear Marines, airmen, sailors, infantrymen, Coast Guard ever complain about being downtrodden and put upon and worked too hard like a lot of these whiny ass college athletes and these scumbag attorneys out in California pushing for this. They are just abused and neglected. And let me tell you something. College athletes, if you play by the rules, you get your butt up out of bed in the morning, go to the workouts, go to class, you're on a gravy train with 4-wheel drive biscuit wheels. I'm talking Mama's cat head biscuits the size of a plate. Okay. If you screw that up, you're an idiot. You're lazy and you're not motivated. And I'm telling you, I don't want to hear it. Oh, these poor little athletes. As Mr. Krabs would often do in SpongeBob SquarePants, let me get the world's smallest violin out here and play one here. Hey, look, you don't run the Krusty Krab because you're a nice guy. He's a tough guy. But I'm just saying, name, image, and likeness. We better be careful with this. But Kyle Orr and the folks at Melt Atlanta think that stands for Media, Entertainment, Leisure, Travel. Kind of give you a little bit of a background on them, Billy. You know this, and Jimmy and Mitch, but everybody listening. They do sports marketing and branding. 20 years for Coca-Cola. 18 straight NCAA Final Fours until last year we didn't have one. 8 years in a row they produced ESPN Game Day. That's what they do. They think the number could double from 8 to 16 billion with name, image, and likeness. And instead of players opting out, I quit, I'm too lazy, I only care about myself, forget my team, they think that number could double because they will start paying players to play in the game, opt in or play. That could really be interesting. Billy, what do you think? You live there in Atlanta, 6 million people, 22 counties, the epicenter, the largest college football market on the planet.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to, if the sport is professionalizing, and it is, then they're going to have to adopt what professional teams do, which is, you've got a contract and you've got to honor that. So this opting in and opting out, can be taken off the table in contractual terms. If you sign up and you come here and you get the benefit of our brand and our exposure on national television, you've got to play a part too. It can't be a one-way street. So I'm sure that, lawyers are chomping at the bit to have at this name, image, likeness. On the plus side, these guys that, have been playing hard and working their whole life, and this is their chance to, cash in for the first time. This is America, and, they should be allowed to do that. But they still need to honor commitments and contracts, just like professional players do. So that's the first take. But, I was thinking a little bit about what Jimmy said earlier about it's tough for these college basketball coaches to deal with the one and done players. It's hard to coach them. It's hard to build a team. And I hadn't really thought about that too much in context of college football, but the college football coaches are going to have to adapt just like the college basketball coaches have had to. They're going to have to kind of treat these guys, I got you for 1 year and let's build a team around what we have. And the luxury of developing a guy over 2 or 3 years is going to be out the window. So maybe, the way the college basketball coaches, Calipari and Bruce Pearl, these guys probably don't have a ton of sympathy for the football coaches right now, but they can teach them a few things because they've had to deal with this for a while now, the one and done.
Well, this is interesting. And I'm going to say something to some folks that are listening. It's really cool to get texts from different people. Hey, Robert Durham over there in Brookhaven, Buckhead. Of course, you're from Bowden, Georgia. Thank you for listening. John Hearn from Monroe, Georgia, the Regent, and Lee Parrott from down in Andalusia. Maury Gaston, all y'all, thank you for listening to the show. Appreciate it. I want to say this. I think the danger, though, Billy, with name, image, and likeness, and I brought this up before, what if the wide receiver, what if you've got an Antonio Brown type guy on your team and he's telling the quarterback, I'll pay you to throw me all the balls. And y'all made the point last week, that's what you have coaches for, to stop that, okay? But we got to be real careful, and this crap starts out in California. Look, quit listening to it. California has lost its seat at the table. The Pac-12, man, hey, they're fresh out of friends. They got an idiot, a living brain donor. Larry Scott is the commissioner. They're look, the American Athletic Conference passed them by this year when it came to college football. And Jimmy, I want you to answer this, but I think honestly, we better be careful again with name, image, and likeness. You've got to be careful. But Jake Crane is right. I'm for the 8-team playoff because your Power Five, every champion would have would go, unless your champion had 2 or 3 losses, and then 3 at-large schools. You cannot have a playoff and people take you seriously. You can't have a playoff and expect for people to take you seriously if you don't make it to where every team out there has a legitimate chance to go. I know we've got this 4-team contract that goes for a while, but Jimmy, what do you think?
Well, I just think that everything in college athletics and more or less everything else comes down to dollars and cents. And by going to an 8-team playoff, there's just going to be more money available.
Yeah.
to the schools and the conferences, and you're going to get more people involved with, being able to chase that dream. But yeah, I think there's just a common sense aspect into this equation, and that is by going to 8 teams, that's going to guarantee that every Power 5 conference champion gets in. And I've said it many times, that's going to eliminate 90% of the whining. And then depending on how the season develops and how good it appears the top group of 6 team is, maybe give them a shot, and then you have 2 at-large shots, and then you go from there.
Yeah.
And that way you just get more of a feeling of inclusion. But somebody brought this up maybe last week, and I thought it was a really good point that, there's a real concern the way that it appears the quality of football's tailing off in the Pac-12. I think it's really important to get them involved, because I just don't think it will be good for college football if you have an entire geographical section of the country that feels like they're not part of it.
Oh, I agree totally.
They just kind of bail out of it, and we don't want to have that.
No, Jimmy, I absolutely agree with you 110% on that. I'm just saying they need a new commissioner. But I hope.
Oh, no question.
Yeah, but I would hate for the American Athletic Conference to lose Mike Orasco.
Yes.
Because that's probably the number 1 candidate. But you're right. But look, it's very competitive out there. So it's fun to watch. Maury Gaston, I know you've been tied up, and I wanted to get you on the show. You just got out of a meeting, and Maury from down in Birmingham always has great insight as the round table here. We're bouncing some stuff around. We got Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago, Mitch Davis in Memphis, Billy Roberts over in Atlanta, Maury Gaston from Birmingham, of course, a native of Sylacauga, Alabama. And Maury, come on.
Yeah, well, thank you, Rob. You're always too kind.
Shoot, I love having you on here. You're one of my mentors.
You're talking about name, image, and likeness. We talk about boosters and recruiting and the corruption that can go on there. And I'm not naive. I know what goes on. But you know what? If you're paying a quarterback $50,000 a year for name, image, and likeness, there is absolutely no way to keep him from channeling that to somebody else, like you talked about recently, and keeping that hidden, so to speak, and all. This is just, it's like turning 16-year-olds over to manage the local, you know what? It's just, man, you're asking for trouble here, guys.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying y'all support it. I'm just saying, good grief, what are these people thinking?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Alan Green, Auburn's AD, is a fan of it. I don't think a lot of the ADs are. And we don't have any leadership from the pulpit of the NCAA. Mark Emmert, he's collecting a big check, but he's not a leader. And I'm telling you, somebody needs to stand up and say, okay, I don't care if you like hearing this or not, but be a deadgum truth broker instead of going along with all this garbage just because you want people to like you.
Well,
just
John,
because a bunch of clowns in California
Rob,
want to push this narrative, they're not right. We've got to be careful of it. And you know what? When you're 19 and 20 years old, you better learn something right now. You don't run the world, man. You don't make the rules.
Right. Rob, your friend of mine, John Hearn, says if you're a leader, you've got to be willing to choose the harder right over the easier wrong.
Right.
And the easy wrong right here, in my view, is all this name, image, and likeness money. And the harder right is saying, no, we're not going to do it. These guys are getting tremendous benefits from free education, not a free education, an earned education, and tremendous networking and professional opportunities in the future.
Yeah, Maury, you pointed out last week the relationships that you make while you're in college. It's priceless. I mean, I can speak to that. I mean, I've known you since the fall of '82. And man, you helped me out tremendously, and so many other people: John Hearn, Lee Parrott, Robert Durham, John Burgess, Sprayberry, all these guys. I mean, think about those are relationships you have from college, and sometimes they're going to tell you things you may not want to hear. But I used to be up at 5:30 in the morning, exercising on my own voluntarily when I was a freshman, and I loved it. And they used to say, "You're only as strong as your weakest link." Philip A. Thompson, Huntsville, Alabama, watercress capital of the world, dog's name, Mr. Happy. I remember that stuff. But I'm telling you, you don't make the rules when you're 19 and 20. I got a 20-year-old son. I got a 22-year-old. I got a 24-year-old daughter. They don't make the rules. You know what? Get your education. You can make a living with your hands. You can make millions with your mind. Mitch Davis, you being the youngest one on this round table of us, what do you think about all this stuff? Because I think name, image, and likeness, we are going down a path, a muddy road in the Mississippi Delta without four-wheel drive. And trust me, you're going to get stuck and you may not be able to get out.
You guys make a lot of good points, and I actually disagree with you guys. I think, we live in a capitalistic economy where you can go make money, and a lot of these guys are not allowed to, go have a job. The NCAA says you can't have a part-time job. You can't have a full-time job. Even during the summer, even during the winter months when you're home, they can't go out and have jobs. I get they get a full ride. I get they get some stipend money. But a lot of these guys come from absolutely just dirt poor nothing. And if you do the, pay to play, maybe, stipend it out to maybe 1,000 or whatever it might be, it would actually eliminate a lot of, it would actually eliminate a lot of this cheating stuff, if they get the name and likeness thing, because, it's the star quarterback. And it'll also motivate a lot of kids to work their butt off to become the star quarterback, to get that extra money, and also help a lot of these kids, take their girlfriends out on a date, or for the women's sports players, take their boyfriends out on a date, buy Christmas presents for, their families. And, a lot of my thing is they're not allowed to have a job, and they're not allowed to earn extra money while in school.
What?
And yet the NCAA is making billions off of these kids. And, that's one of my biggest arguments for it. And let alone, I think a lot of people also, for a selfish reason, want that, college football video game to come back, with the name and image and likeness thing. That video game will come back, and a lot of happiness will come back to a lot of people across the country, especially younger people. And I just think it's an opportunity for these guys, for these girls, to make a little extra money to send back home to pay a water bill, or to take their significant other out on a date, or buy some Christmas presents, because they're not allowed to have a job. The NCAA is very strict. And I was actually within a program, an SEC program several years back, and a lot of these SEC programs cannot even provide these kids with a colored cupcake. Whether that's a Ole Miss cupcake in navy and blue, they're not allowed to give them that navy and blue cupcake, because that's an NCAA violation.
All right, let me throw something at you. First off, you get the cost of attendance money now. So most of these college athletes are getting about anywhere from $900 to $1,200 a month in spending money. Now let's think about this. And I'm going to throw this around to Jimmy, Billy Roberts, my roommate in college, the pride of LaGrange, Georgia, plow them up, Grangers, and Maury Gaston from Sylacauga. And I'm going to throw it out like this. And you're already getting, these kids are getting, say on average about $1,000 a month as it is. They don't have to pay for room and board. They don't have to pay for food. And, when you play for any of these schools, most times you go to places, a lot of times you do, your money's no good. And you know what I mean? So they really don't have to spend that much money. And as far as them not being able to have a job, they can have a job. That's a false narrative. I'm going to say this right now. And I know, let's adjust for inflation and relative terms about money. I'll start with Jimmy Hodge from Clinton, Tennessee. Then we're going to go to Billy Roberts from LaGrange, Georgia, and Maury Gaston from Sylacauga, Alabama. Jimmy, did you get $1,000 to $1,200 a month extra spending money every month in college?
No, in those days you got the laundry money, $15 a month.
There you go. Oh man, that's $180 a year. Wow.
Yeah, of course that was in the Stone Age,
Yeah.
But only until a few years ago, though, did really anybody get much of anything at all.
You're right.
So this is just recent, but I do think, though, when the NCAA gives this more study, I guess they're postponing it. They need to realize, I think, that there aren't going to be that many players, I don't think, that would really, benefit from it. Like, for example, in the last couple of years, clearly somebody like Tua would, Trevor Lawrence, guys that play the high-profile positions like quarterback that are, just dynamic personalities and have a bright, NFL future in the minds of many people. I think, maybe those guys, but I don't know if there would be that many others. And the danger of it too, is that it can create some chemistry problems in the locker room. So there's a lot of aspects about this you have to think about. And so I'm really kind of in on this. I think it would be a situation where you kind of just wait and see how things develop after it goes into action, much like I think next year when you have the first year of the transfer portal, they're able to transfer to other schools without having to sit out, and see how that affects programs that are, receiving those new players, in addition to the programs that the players have left from their new school, and just see how all of this is affecting the game, the conferences, and I think at that point, NCAA will be in a much better position to maybe fine-tune it and see if they can improve it and try to get it to work the best way that's possible in the most equitable and fair way as possible.
Yeah, that's a great point. Billy Roberts, did you get $1,000 to $1,200 a month extra spending money? Adjusted, obviously, different times when we were in school. And I'm not trying to gang up on Mitch, but I just think that you cannot have this narrative being pushed that these guys are just always being these poor, put up. Woe is me, the college athlete. Let me tell you something. You're a college athlete. You work your butt off. And you play within, the lanes, and you go to class, you have every resource at your disposal to succeed. You better live by a motto, sua sponte, of your own accord. If you fail, that's on you. But Billy, I want your answer, then we'll go to Maury, and we're about to wrap up.
Well, I was in school at the same time as a sister of mine, so the money was tight. So the way I worked it out was I worked at Saugahatchee Country Club in Auburn and made a lot of money as a bartender and a waiter out there.
Yeah.
So I had a part-time job, but that turned into almost 30 hours a week because the money was pretty good.
Yeah.
Out there as a bartender and a waiter. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they don't need a tremendous amount in a college town to be able to go out on a date or, hang out a little bit. But I think there's going to have to be, like we've talked about before, you can't, even though there's going to be name, image, likeness, you going to have to put a lid on, how much, each player can get, or even basically on a position basis, because there's going to be resentment and jealousy. And the only way to do it is to delay the reward for far into the future so that it's not an immediate gratification and there's not immediate temptation. I think that's the only way to manage it. That money's going to have to go into an annuity. It's going to go into a 401k type of thing where they could get that money starting at age 30, 35, 40, different periods throughout their life. That would be a tremendous way to kind of kill two birds with one stone. But if there's an immediate reward financially, with the corruption and the resentment and the temptation, not only from the players themselves, but all of their hangers on that they have, I think it'll be a complete mess. And you can, if you follow this, kind of model, the Olympics went through this, for, 100 years, it was an amateur event allegedly, but then they dropped the charade and it was just full on professional.
Yeah.
As it is today. And, only a couple of, people in any given Olympics rise in the level of public consciousness where they get a Wheaties endorsement or a sneaker endorsement. So I think Jimmy's point is correct that it's only going to be a couple of people who really have a huge upside while they're a young college player. But
agree.
nonetheless, to avoid the resentment among their teammates and to keep the team chemistry intact, you're going to have to say, you do deserve to get a reward, but we're going to give you that reward 20 years from now when you may really need it rather than next Friday.
Yeah. Well, I've always advocated when it comes to this, because that's what I do for a living, estate planning, a lot of working with people, managing their wealth. And that is age banded and incentive based trust. You got a 21-year-old kid and you dump a big pile of money in their lap. I mean, they're not going to want to get out of bed in the morning. They're going to sit around and, just become very basically a lot of times just worthless bums, ne'er-do-wells. Okay. You can't do that. You'll ruin them. You'll get somebody that was, born into wealth and doesn't have to work and gets a big pile of money dumped on them. That's like saying, hey, I was born on third base and I hit a triple. No, you didn't. You didn't. And so, yeah, I think if you're going to do this, if they have to have it and there's nothing that can do, put it in a trust, a blind trust, incentive-based, age-banded, whatever. So the money's there, because a 21, 22-year-old kid will go through that money faster than steel shot through a goose, okay, or a duck. Believe me,
I know I would.
It's the way it goes. Maury Gaston, your comments, and man, this has been a lot of fun today. I want to say real quick, Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago, thank you so much. Mitch Davis, Jake Crane, J-Boy Podcast down in Tupelo, Billy Roberts, Shoney called in, Maury Gaston, all of our sponsors, everybody listening. Man, thank you so much. But Maury, your thoughts on this, because you've got incredible insight being on a lot of national boards, and also you recruit for your company a lot and interview young people in the exact age group we're talking about. And like all of us, you've got kids in college.
Well, these deferred deferral programs you talk about are better than nothing at all. But I don't know that they can appreciate the value of that.
I agree.
So I am not a fan of name, image, and likeness.
I'm not either.
And throwing all that money. I mean, for goodness sakes, you're getting a free education, free room and board, and an extremely valuable post-career network opportunity. What more can you ask for?
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. Be grateful for what you got. I think Sheryl Crow's got that great line in one of her songs. It isn't having what you've got. It's wanting what you have. Wanting something else. It's wanting what you've got. That's where you get messed up a lot of times. But hey, listen, great points made by everybody. Remember, we'll be back on Friday, coming up Friday, January 15th, 3 to 5 p.m. Central on the Sidelines.live Friday podcast. Saturday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, Sports 56 WHBQ.com, Sports 56 WHBQ AM radio, FM 96.1 and the new FM 98.5. And on Sundays, again, the Sunday afternoon wrap-up show, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, Sidelines.live. And as always, go to the website, www.sidelines.live. All shows are archived. They'll be up within about an hour of this broadcast tonight. But again, thank you to everybody. Don't quit because you're tired. Quit because you're done. Love, honor, and truth. Good night. We're out of here.
Rob,
Hey guys.